Hello and welcome to episode 18 of VGN Weekly for October 15th, 2024. As always, we will recap this week's Virtual Grip Network race broadcast and bring you in-depth interviews with your favorite drivers, league owners, commentators, and more. So please take a second here and like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our broadcasts. If you are a league owner and have a broadcasting need or are a sponsor and would like to get your name out, please visit us at thevirtualgrip.net so you can get info on how to get in touch with us. Welcome again to the show. I am John High, and I am here with director producer of all things VGN, Ryan Seneker, and we thank you for tuning in. And right now we're going to kick things off with looking back to all the action on the VGN network for the past week. We'll turn it over to Ricky Harden.
The Bootleg Racing League Outlaw SK Modified Series visited Langley Speedway on Saturday, October 12th for round 3. Tom Hilbert launched from the pole with Donnie Moore alongside, defending his spot early on. An early caution bunched up the field, but when racing resumed on lap 8, Moore wasted no time, making a move around the outside to claim the lead, leaving Hilbert to defend against a charging Todd Liston. By lap 14, Liston saw his opening, diving to the inside of Hilbert and bringing Jeffrey Harden along with him. Another caution briefly interrupted the action, but when the green flag flew again, it was Moore still leading, though Todd Liston was breathing down his neck. On lap 42, Liston decided to make his move. He pulled alongside Donnie Moore on the back straightaway, securing the top spot. Moore settled back into second, blocking Jeffrey Harden to prevent further loss. With a clear track ahead, Liston settled into his groove, stretching his lead to a commanding 1.7 seconds on a long green flag run. But on lap 72, a caution erased that gap and set up a tense restart with Moore alongside. As the field powered back to life, Moore slipped to third, while Harden tried to reel in Liston. But the defending champ wasn't having it. Todd Liston steadily increased his lead in the final laps. Behind him, Donnie Moore and Ruben Altiz locked horns in a battle for third. But tonight, it was all about Liston, who cruised to his first victory of the season, a masterful display at Langley. After the modified race wrapped up, the Bootleg Racing League Late Model Invitational Series battled under the lights at Langley Speedway. And what a night it was. Trey Bloom started out strong from the pole with Joseph Snyder right alongside. By lap 11, Snyder turned up the heat, making a move to take the lead from Trey Bloom. Things took a turn on lap 31 when our first caution flew for Joe Segala, tapping Kurt Smith, spinning him around and bringing out the yellow flag. Then, just after the restart, Joe Segala found himself in more hot water, colliding with Tom Hilbert when the pack checked up in front of him, which brought out another caution. As drivers fought for grip, a series of mid-race cautions slowed the pace, with the apron paint proving tricky even for the steadiest hands. And just when you thought you'd seen it all, deja vu lap 91 brings another pileup as Joe Segala gets into the back of Kurt Smith yet again, triggering a multi-car incident in turn 4 and setting up the stage for a dramatic late race restart. With Snyder and Donnie Moore lining up on the front row for the lap 98 start, both drivers got an explosive jump, battling side by side into turn 1. But by the exit of turn 2, the battle was over. Donnie Moore slotted in behind Joseph Snyder, unable to mount a charge before the checkered flag flew. The Butcher of Baton Rouge, Joseph Snyder, takes the win in a night of close calls and intense action.
Hello and welcome back to VGN Weekly. Again, I am John Hine here with producer of all things VGN, Ryan Seneker, and we welcome this week's guest who is going to be Jeff Kemper. And Jeff is a relatively new member of the BRL. His first start came just a little less than a year ago, January 21st, 2023. He ran an SK at the USA Speedway. He's got 76 starts. He's got a win. He's got 7 top 10s, 7 top 5s, 19 top 10s. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, I tell you, I didn't see you on track this week, so I can't ask you how things went there. But oh heck, I can't even remember where we were already. But yeah, we were at Langley. That's right, we were at Langley. So can't ask you about anything there. But tell me a little bit about how you found iRacing, and once you got into iRacing, tell me how you kind of connected with the BRL.
Yeah, I found iRacing. I was probably around 2018, 2019, a couple of years before I even built a computer or had a computer built and played. And I started watching videos on it and thought it looked really interesting. I used to be into Gran Turismo on the PlayStation 2. Used to do a lot of the NASCAR heat and everything, and it really piqued my interest. So I was watching videos on it and, just kept driving my interest and everything. And then finally was able to save up enough money and get a computer and get off the console gaming stuff. And I had the steering wheel already set up, so that helped matters. And pretty much that's what got me into iRacing there. And then I probably ran about, I think it was a year and a half or so, 2 years before I joined Gambler Motorsports when he reached out to me. It's kind of at that time looking for a team, but wasn't necessarily reaching out to anybody myself. I was just kind of waiting to see if somebody, might send me an invite and have me come along and try it out.
Yeah, and then well, I guess we kind of pointed you towards the BRL, and yeah, you are a member of Gambler, and I don't even remember when you became one, but yeah, glad that we've got you on board. It's been a fun having you as a member of the team for sure. A lot of folks I think that watch this, I know within even in BRL, there's a lot of guys that are independent, and there's some guys that are part of a team. For those that are on the fence, what do you think what would you tell them that some of the pros and maybe even some of the cons are about being a part of a team? And it's okay to say a con. I don't mind. You won't hurt my feelings. We can put it straight up. Putting up with me is probably a con, so we can move on from that part.
Oh no, the pros are definitely great for it. You got someone to talk to. You're not just jumping in the race and kind of listen to the voice chat of everyone else. So it's kind of nice to talk to each other, be able to go over things. Obviously, tell each other about tricks, tips, secrets, anything like that. That helps out quite a bit. But then, you do have the downside of it that sometimes when you make contact with your other teammate, it makes things a little bit awkward at times. Things happen, and most teammates and everything are good with it. Might be a little bit irritated for a little while, but we all get over it, and we're here to have fun and still the camaraderie and be able to talk with each other. And
yeah, and I know that at least I know it's pretty easy for me to say here, but we at Gambler, we do a lot of things just outside of league racing and stuff like that. Were you doing any endurance racing or anything like that, or is that did you come on with that with us?
That was with you guys. I never ran an endurance race. I did run some of the Miata MX-5 and then running for Coast to Coast when they had the Formula V, but when I first started out, I didn't even really touch any road course racing at all. It's pretty much started out dirt, and then kind of got into the asphalt stuff, and I feel that I drive better on the asphalt stuff, so I like that, but dirt's still fun. And so, yeah, with the team events, that's definitely something different. It's a lot of really good time there. Get joking around, you're spending 24 hours, 12 hours, whatever with each other, the whole entire time for the most part. And it's fun to see what the team can do and watch people and try to learn the track better. So I've been really enjoying that stuff.
Yeah, the endurance stuff. The first one I did was a number of years ago, and it was actually with old friends of BRL, but the Shanowskis and Western PA, and I immediately fell in love with that stuff. I still cannot believe how much fun those endurance races, those team endurance races can actually be, and then having a team together that you're buddies and you go do that, and it adds a whole different thing to just turning left all the time, and going and racing, whether it be at asphalt, dirt, whatever it might be. But it's like it steps me out of my comfort zone for the time that we're doing it. And um what has been your favorite endurance race so far? Just out of curiosity. I know we've done what, 3 or 4 this year?
Yeah, I don't know. I like Bathurst because I felt that I practiced that one a lot more, so I knew more
Really?
about the track. Yeah, but I mean, I'm not a big fan of the track necessarily,
Off
but that's one
off
that
the
I got
team.
sick at and
Off
I
the
couldn't even
team.
finish. Yeah, because the VR. I remember the elevation change and everything because it
Yes.
got me motion sickness over time, and I couldn't even finish my last stint. But that was probably the one that I spent the most amount of time on. Getting ready for and knowing the corners. And sometimes I don't get a whole lot of time to practice, so finding out your breaking points, you got to crash course it and try to get it done.
So you practice more for Bathurst than you did the Nürburgring?
I did. Yeah, I was on Nürburgring. I didn't
And
practice nearly enough. It was like a couple hours the night before. So, yeah, it was pretty bad.
yeah, and that's for those of you who don't know, the Nürburgring is, that what was it? Probably taking about 9-10 minutes a lap. And it's about a 16-mile course. So it's a huge, huge track. Um, well, outside, I know that you also do dirt in a little bit. Do you have what kind of dirt racing do you do, and which do you enjoy the most?
uh, Probably the sprint cars the most. I was a big fan of the late models, but there's been a couple builds that I haven't really kept up on. I haven't been able to race enough, so the handling's changed quite a bit. And with practice, it may come back to be my favorite, but right now I like running the 360 sprint cars.
What when you hop in those, and then you like, let's say a week that you run, I know you run C2C and then you run BRL. On a week that you have to jump from one discipline to another, tell me what's that like when you hop from one to another? Does it take a little bit extra to kind of get that rhythm back, or is it just like riding a bike and off you go?
Well, I don't know if I have much rhythm and the dirt side of stuff. So going from asphalt over to dirt, doesn't really correlate a whole lot to me. There for a while, I thought that learning the patience and throttle control and stuff with asphalt was helping me out on dirt, but I don't know if they necessarily cross over that much. But I just kind of jump in and throw some laps down, and generally they're about mid pack. Nothing blazing or anything like that, and then just try to learn off the other drivers and try to figure out what lines they're running. I mean, there was a while that I thought I knew a whole lot about racing, but come to find out, I really didn't know much. And when you're side by side racing with people, you can't just cut down the inside of the track and come up high. And that took me a little bit to figure that stuff out. And that also not being the fastest way around, but transitioning over into the slick track, definitely a different driving style than coming off of the tacky track.
How about endurance racing? Yeah, because I personally, for me, I think when I've started doing that stuff, I think it improved my asphalt just program altogether. Everything that I did. Did you find that same correlation with doing maybe the endurance to helping on the asphalt side?
Yeah, I think so because just the amount of time that you're in the car, if you run two stints, it takes a lot of focus that whole entire time, and that builds builds you up, gets you endurance for it, and so I think I'm able to focus longer for that time because if you get out of the car on a two stint run, on a big endurance race, your mind's pretty wiped, everything that you have to think about and keep them focused the whole entire time.
Well, I know back in your background, I think you've got a little bit of real world racing experience. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it was probably about 2000, 2001, I think it was. I had a girlfriend at the time that her dad and his buddy had a bunch of go-karts, and they were dirt track racing, or yeah, dirt track circle indoors, and called me up one time, and I was living up in the Seattle area working at a dealership up there as a tech, and we drove down and got fitted for the cart, put it on the scales and everything, and went out and pretty much made an embarrassment out of myself. I think I drew 2 caution flags in the main event. It was a little wedge cart, and I don't know if I was just overdriving it. We didn't have it set up right. More than likely it was me overdriving, but spun out twice, so that one kind of ended early. and then they had this flat uh, asphalt cart that they had, and they tried to convert it a little bit over to dirt, and that was the second time that I ran that, and I think I finished 4th and started 10th or something in there. It's kind of funny. I came around off of turn 4, and they had just plywood set up for the wall, and I punted the car into that, and the rear bumper got stuck into it, and dumb me, not really thinking about being a hot track and everything, I jumped out of the seat of the cart and pulled it off the wall and took off again. And yeah, it was a pretty fun time, but definitely that one caused a little bit of damage because I busted up the nose piece on it. So had to do a little work for the guy to pay off. It was like $100 or something. But he's like, "Yeah, I don't want the cash. Just come do some work." And he was serving papers, so it was a pretty bad job. Really, that was no fun at all. But got that paid back, and that was pretty much the experience there. And then a little bit after that, I had a buddy that his mom was a track steward up Portland International Raceway, and they were going up there and doing turn working and flagging at the certain stations, and they invited me to come along one time, and man, that was a good time. I think it was an 8-hour endurance race, the first one I went to, so we hauled up barbecues, we were taking stints with each other of who was running the flags and who was on communication. Someone was running the grill during the time, and it was a good time, a lot of fun. And
Like that's a track that I've never been to it, but I've watched, I don't know how many races there, and man, that's one that I hope iRacing scans at some point, man, because that track, it looks just absolutely gorgeous, and that layout looks like a lot of fun actually to drive. So
yeah,
hopefully,
yeah, I got to take my normal vehicle around it a few times because when you're going out to your corner that you're working, you go around and they let you go around a couple times, as long as you weren't really going crazy on it. So that was kind of fun. That little S10 and cruised around that a few times. But it's a pretty tight track, so it's really tough. There's only a few passing areas on it, but it makes for some exciting racing for sure. I love to get up there and what used to be the GI Joe's 200 with the IndyCar and go watch that. I almost jumped on it this year, but didn't. So hopefully next year I can before they decide to go somewhere else again. Well, hopefully they don't, but it's a possibility.
yeah, as a racing fan, one of my favorite memories of races is the one that GI Joe's where Michael Andretti nipped his dad at the line on Father's Day, and and won the race. And I just remember Michael being in that interview in Victory Lane, and his dad was right there. He said, "Yeah, Happy Father's Day," and I'm thinking, "Oh man." I don't know why that's always stuck with me. I always thought that was pretty cool, but yeah, that track, I would really like to see that track be a part of the iRacing service there, but we'll see. Yeah, they're plugging along and they put out tracks every year. So, are there any local tracks that you go to, or maybe even just a series nowadays that you follow and really into?
Yeah, I have a track that's probably half a mile, 3/4 of a mile from my house. So Willamette
Oh,
Speedway, it's a 3/8 dirt
oh,
mile track and just under 3/8 mile. So I go there quite a bit. It's a lot of fun. I had a neighbor that raced street stocks over there, so for a little while I was pit crewing and helping him out, but which was quite a bit of work because his car needed some work because it was a little beat up. Didn't have a good enough welder and everything like that. So you bump the wall, your bumper fall off. He had one time fuel tank fell out, but made for exciting times for sure. But yeah, so go out there generally 4 or 5 times a year, go watch stuff, especially when the NARC sprint cars come up. Like to go there.
I was just gonna ask if NARC comes through there because those are the for those of you who don't know, those are the non-wing sprint cars that are, I believe they're non-wing, right?
No, they're winged.
They're
Those
winged?
ones are. Yeah, I can't remember what the
Or no,
non
the
series is.
yeah, yeah, because Corey Kruzman runs those non-wing ones out there. Oh gosh, that's gonna bother me now. But uh, World of Outlaws have come out there too, I think a couple times, didn't they?
They
A
have,
few
yeah.
years back.
A couple of years ago, I think was the last one that I went to, or the last time they were here, and I went quite a few years back, maybe 10 years ago, and Donnie Schatz was running, so that was pretty cool. I think he won that one that year, and
A few years ago, Don, you just say Donnie won because I mean he won like everywhere he went at that point
yeah,
in
no kidding.
time.
Not really narrowing it down very much, but
Yeah. Do you have a favorite that come in there? Do you like the wing, the non-wing, late models when they come in? Or do late models run there weekly?
Yeah, late models are almost weekly. Sometimes I have a break from them, but most of the time it's weekly down there, and I'd say that's my favorite racing that I watch down there. They have a lot of good guys, even some that are heading over, Texas, and then even more east that have ran, more on a national circuit type deal. So it's fun to be able to watch them and then turn on Flow Racing and see them there, if they travel to the place. So I do like that.
Well, speaking of Flow Racing, that's man, that is such a great streaming service. What do you go look for when you're going to go to Flow? So what is the series or what's your go-to to go watch?
100% high limit.
High
I
Limit.
love the yep. I love the high limit series. It's great. Good payouts and everything for it,
Yeah,
and
that's
they put on some really good racing.
for you NASCAR fans. That's one that Kyle Larson has a very large hand in and owns with Brad Sweet, who they are related through marriage, by the way. But yeah, they run that whole deal over there, and they do put on some really good shows. I went to one of those earlier this year, actually, and man, I tell you, for those of you who don't know, and you guys are NASCAR fans, but there's a kid in that series. His name's Corey Day. I'm telling you, that's going to be. He's watch that name. Yeah, I think that's going to come out of that series. But
Yeah, some
uh,
of the NASCAR guys should know about him. His past month,
yeah,
he's been running some of the NASCAR circuit stuff, so
yep,
that's been
yeah.
awesome.
I saw he had a couple of ARCA starts and that, and I think he got a truck once so far. But
Yep.
I watched that kid, and the things that I was watching him on track do just with car control, where he was putting that car and just some of the racecraft I could see out of him, unbelievable for the age he is. So yeah, he's one that I hope to see up in those ranks pretty quick. But I hope he goes all Kyle Larson and keeps running this other stuff, and that's gonna depend on the team he gets with and the owner that will allow them to go play. Well, you've I got other racing that you do outside that go-kart. Talk to me about the RC racing, and the one I'm more interested in is drone flying.
Oh yeah, so the RC car racing was kind of funny. So it started out that I wanted to get into RC flying, and so I went and bought a RC helicopter, and it had a fly bar on it, so it was a little bit more stable, but it still the pitch and everything and roll on it, it would stick to where you put it rather than with a gyro and center up. So I started flying that around in a parking lot, and I crashed it, and I was back in my hometown and looking for parts for it, and I come into this indoor RC track and RC store asking about helicopter parts, and they had a couple of the buggies out there, 10 scale buggies, and running around, and I swear I probably sat there, and the guy actually ran the track. He was a late model driver at Willamette, a really successful one, and so started talking with him. It was probably 2 hours of watching that, and next thing you know, I was out looking up RC cars. I wanted to get into it, and so built one up and went out and did that racing. That was probably a year and a half or so that I ran racing with that, and a lot of good times. Track changes were a little bit difficult to do. You would spend all day there helping out, with the roller and watering and compactor and everything. So did that for a little bit, and then got the flying bug again. So I started getting into RC airplanes. So I got online, ordered myself up a gas engine RC plane, which was crazy at the time because electric was starting to take off. But hey, I got to have gas type person, I like the sound and the smell. So I got that all put together, got it trimmed out and everything out one night, and loaded it up in my vehicle and just went out this place. I heard that was a new development, but they didn't have any housing, but they had the road set up for it. And so put my plane down there, like, oh, we'll be all right to take off this way. And it was one of the side streets instead of the main road. So started going. It wasn't getting enough lift, and there was a barricade at the end of it. And I clipped that thing and yep, broke the engine mount off of it and kind of dinged up the wing. So brought that back home, and I was able to fix it and went up the next day and actually got it up in the air and landed it all in one piece, which was pretty amazing. So I did some flying for quite a while, hit up swap meets, and I probably have 8 or 10 airplanes around here. A lot of them are kind of crashed and stuff like that, but so really dove deep into that. And then drone flying was starting to take off, and not your standard, buy from the store, like full on
Yeah.
carbon fiber frames. You got to build them from the ground up. Little flight controller that maybe an inch and a quarter wide and long, and you'd have to solder all the components on yourself, your speed controllers and everything like that. And
Oh
then
wow.
on top of that, it was open software, so you had to go in and set your PIDs for it. And yeah, it was just crazy stuff. So started getting into that, and we were going to old abandoned sites. There's an old mill in this area and a water tower. We just go take video up there because we had put our GoPros on it and video what we're doing, flying through the buildings and doing loops, flips, and kind of all over the place. So started doing that, and then heard about drone racing, and it was starting to take off at that time also. So went out to the local flying field, and we started building the drone track up there and set up some gates.
Oh, wait a minute. Whoa. How do you build a drone track?
Well,
walk me through that real quick.
you got gates that would be, like kind of like your old elementary school pull-up bars. They'd have a couple of them, and yeah, so it would have a certain color one way that you'd have to fly through, and different color the other. And some of them you'd have to go up over the top and do a flip down through it.
So you're setting an obstacle course, basically.
Pretty much,
for the air that you have to fly. Okay.
Yeah, and then
I was just trying to figure out, when you said a track, I'm thinking, are you putting long poles up, or what do you, to fly around, that kind of stuff?
Yeah,
But,
we did have some tall slalom course gate style stuff. There are different slalom sections for it, and then had drop gates where you had to also go up above them and then be 10, 15 feet, and then you just dive straight down through them and pull up right before you hit the ground. And it's pretty interesting. I wasn't the greatest at it, but oh man, it was a blast doing it. It's probably the fastest couple minutes of your life because the batteries aren't going to last that long because you're running pretty close to full throttle the whole time. But there's some wild things. You hit a gate like that, and they're starting to put up netting and things, but it could easily go out in a crowd of spectators pretty quick, and those things don't feel good when they hit you.
You kind of, I'm trying to envision the size of this then, with the batteries running down, is the path, are we talking like a half a mile long? Is it a mile long? Is it all just really condensed, almost like a regular obstacle course that you would go run, everywhere everything's compact? How does that look when you set it up?
It'd be essentially about a football field, maybe 50 yards wide, 100 long. Pretty close to that size, pretty contained for the most part. There are some guys that kind of depends how you want to set the track up. You can do it however. They do have qualifiers, though, that you have to set it up exactly the way that they want it through multi-GP, I believe it is. But they'll do some that's not even using gates, but they'll have natural area. Like, hey, that tree, third one down this way on the left, you're going to circle around it this way. And so they'll take natural things also and integrate them into it.
Well, that is wild. It sounds like a lot of fun, but then you're talking about building straight, everything from the frame up, basically, which I know for one, I'm not smart enough to do that. So kudos to you for being able to do that. But how long does it take you to put one of those together? Say, okay, I want to get one together. I want to race, here in about a month or so. So how much time does that take to actually put that together?
I think for most people, it'd probably be around 4 or 5 hours once they know what they're doing. I get sidetracked easily, though. I'm a little squirrel here and there, so I'll start working on it and then go do something else and come back to it. But yeah, generally I can get one done in a day.
What does something like that cost?
They weren't too bad. I'd probably say 500 or so, right around.
So
by the time you buy the motors and frames and batteries, because you're going to have multiple batteries, otherwise you're going to sit and wait on the charger for too long. So you generally bring about 8 to 10 batteries. And then over time, after, a few races on a battery, they kind of start losing their power and everything to them. So the really good guys will junk them at that moment, but I wasn't good enough to have to worry about that, so I kept them around.
So it's cheaper than iRacing. That's not something I would have guessed, but then again, I think I've said this before on here, and usually folks agree. I don't want to think about how much I've spent in iRacing.
No, I've added up a few times or pretty close to it. I'm like, oh, that's sad.
Why would you do that? Oh my gosh.
I think about it.
That's about as far down that road that I go. I don't want to know that number.
Yeah, I always get asked from friends. So they're like, well, you spent that much on your iRacing stuff. Why don't you just buy a real race car? Well, I don't really have to work on this stuff, folks. I have it up and running. I crashed my car on here. I'm not rebuilding the computer afterwards. So the money and the time savings is huge. And and my body. I'm getting a little bit older, you know. I can't beat myself up too much.
Well, I know that I don't know if you've seen, but like Lowell and I think a few other guys in BRL, they do the sim flying. So if you're interested in the um, flying like that, they use I think it's Microsoft Flight and all that. Have you ever dabbled in that stuff?
I did a little bit, but I really just had a regular stick instead of a yoke and that type of stuff and rudders. So I do want to get that type of stuff because I think it'd be fun. And yeah, sorry, fly.
Lowell, yeah, that's all right. Well, not Lowell would be a really good guy and to get that out. I know there's a new version of that coming out. I think Lowell said next month. Um, and it's even got a career mode in it, which sounds like actually kind of fun. So if you want to be, I gotta assume if you wanted to be like a fighter pilot or you wanted to be fly, one of the racers or, an airline pilot, you can like go down these different venues, I guess. And sounds like a really cool deal. So with your interested in that, yeah, I would actually reach out to Lowell and see. And I know a few of them get together, I think, and go up in the air together and fly around. So
Yeah,
they
and I
seem
have
to have a really good. Pardon?
oh, I have Xbox Game Pass too. So the Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 is free on there right now. So I have been
Oh, nice.
researching yokes and rudders and trying to see, what I want to get.
Well,
But
and that right there has kept me from wanting to do that is because that's all right. If I know if I go down that road and because I know that I'll really enjoy it and hell, people might not even see me on iRace anymore because I'll probably be flying all the time. I've done it a couple times. I think we raced at Kokomo in a series one time, and I flew into Kokomo, and I got done with the race, and I flew back to St. Louis. So,
oh, that's
um,
cool.
yeah, big time. That's what I was going for. But yeah, it is cool. So yeah, anybody else that's kind of interested in that stuff, because flying, I don't know why, but flying and racing seem to be a nice, marriage of the two. A lot of guys that like to race seem to have interest in that too, and it's a really really cool program. So, um, well, you talked about Willamette, so that tells me you're up in the Pacific Northwest. Why don't you tell us where do you live and what do you do for work?
So I'm about an hour south of Portland, pretty much
Okay.
in the Willamette Valley here in Oregon. It's a small town, Lebanon. I think there's right around 16,000 people. Nothing too big or like that, but it's starting to expand quite a bit because I got a new school for nursing and stuff going in. So it's starting to expand a little bit. And so I work at a company called Lynn Gear Company, and we're a machine shop that we make gears, sprockets, shafts, and stuff for power transmission applications. We make stuff
Oh
for the
wow.
Army Corps of Engineers to go into the dams, so gears in there. We've even made pulley sheaves for LeBron James's mansion, actually, for his elevator. We made a few parts
Really?
for that. Yeah,
Oh,
so I
that's
work
wild.
maintenance purchasing in that one. I started out in the keyway department, so it was broaching keyways into pulleys and stuff like that, like would be on your harmonic balancer. And then got into the CNC turning lathe stuff and worked in that for a little while. And then moved over to CNC milling, did that for a bit. And then I was maintenance for about 3 years after that. Now I'm pretty much, it's a kind of a hybrid role. I'm doing maintenance, but purchasing mostly for them, but I still go out and I back up the CNC controls, all the parameters and stuff on there. So I have that. It's pretty much, they call it the electrical lab that I work in. We got all the relays and uh, soldering stuff, everything that we need to try to fix circuit boards and stuff. And
Oh,
we
wow.
run machines that are, it's like a museum in there. These machines are old. A lot of them even have tagging on them that they're from the U.S. Department of Navy, like during World War II time. So we got stuff from,
Wow.
50s. It's pretty nuts that they got off the little Navy ships. And so, yeah, it keeps me quite busy because there's not a whole lot of information out on those machines now. So we're kind of just figuring it out as we go for the most part. And it's a lot of fun, definitely interesting, keeps my mind interested for sure.
That's man, I don't know if it's more impressive that you guys can keep something working that can work on current applications from that era, or more impressive that the military had that kind of technology back in that era, because that was way before it was public. And I mean, there's a number of things that I've read that they've had that, 20, 30 years before, it was even thought of in the public sector. Um, that is just incredible.
Yeah, some of the gear cutting machines we have, they're just insane. Whoever thought up, how they work and everything to be timed right. And they got different gears that you put in for your different ratio, and that'll change the swing of, I guess the machine's kind of rocking like this and the cutter's going, and it'll change the amount of that. But the timing and everything, then how they figured that out, I will never know. But it's pretty impressive stuff.
One of those things where you think the person was either an utter genius or an utter madman.
Yep.
Probably. Yeah. I can only imagine when you're not at work, because you're in what I consider one of the most beautiful parts of the country. I don't know how many times I've actually told my wife that I wanted to move to Portland. Um, what do you do when you're not there working? Do you get out? Do you go camping around there? Do you like to drive up and down I-5? What all do you like to do there?
Yeah, I like to go camping. I didn't get out this year to go camping. Have a couple extra kids that staying with us that needed help out, so not able to get out. But I do have a jet ski, so we have a lake pretty close. It's about 20 miles away, so get out and go do that. Cruise around the lake. Like to do a little bit of fishing, and then big time barbecue person. Like I'll sit there and watch my smoker for hours. So making briskets and pulled pork ribs, different stuff like that. Even dinosaur ribs. And
Oh
I
man.
really like the art of it. I research so much, and try to perfect my technique all the time. And it's experimentation, for the most part, but everything turns out really good, or most of it. If it doesn't, then you just turn it into chili or feed it to the dog. But yeah, it turns out good.
Man, oh man, now I'm hungry. A barbecue, that's by far and away my favorite. Um, when you is there a particular what's your favorite thing to barbecue? Is it steaks or not barbecue, but smoke? Fish, pork? What do you like
Yeah,
to
I'm not a fish eater, so my favorite would probably be the brisket or the dinosaur beef ribs, because
Nice.
they're probably that's like the gold standard. If you could create really good at that, then you kind of made it in a way, So I like to try to gauge pretty much how I'm doing by that. And most
Okay.
of them
So
they turn out pretty good, but they'll look like a meteorite, with all the smoke on the bark on the outside of it. But you touch it, and that thing will jiggle, and yeah, it's really good stuff.
what kind of wood do you use to smoke?
Mostly hickory, but I do like to use oak also. But most of the
So
time hickory.
everybody who is watching, go ahead and Google Jeff Kemper, and we know it's somewhere up there around Willamette, and we'll find him. And there's a party at his house. He'll supply the food. It'll be Saturday night right before we race. I think that would be perfect.
Sounds like a
So,
plan. Yeah, I'll do.
so
We have poker parties, so I'll tell
nice.
people, hey, I'm bringing the food. You guys take care of the sides, but I'll bring the meat, and that works great.
Did you
It's
guys
not a time.
did you guys get to see the Northern Lights the other night? I know that last couple of weeks there's been some big shots. I know through here, the Midwest, even in St. Louis, we saw them. But can you go out and see those out there, or does that not always hit you?
Where I'm at, there's a little bit too much light pollution. We did try to go out and look the other day and didn't see anything, but the time of night, and I needed to work the next day, so we didn't travel out anywhere. We have this butte called Washburn Heights that would have been really awesome to go look at there, but that's about a 15-20 minute drive. But yeah,
Gotcha.
I missed them. That's on my bucket list for sure, is be able to catch them sometime and see them not just through a camera, but with the naked eye.
I've seen them one time. It's when I, lived in Michigan there, and my mom and we were actually up north around the Manistee, which if those of you who know Michigan, it looks like a glove, and it's up on the top part of the glove there, and we got a really nice view. And if it's on your bucket list, you should try to make it happen. But the only problem with that is it's kind of tough to know when to go look at them and time a thing out. But it's really awe. It'll leave you in awe when you see it. So. Um, outside of that, over there, and then, do you ever get up to like Seattle or even down into the northern part, go look at like the redwoods and all that in Northern California?
Yeah. So my brother lives up just outside of Seattle, and I actually lived up there for a couple of years. So I went to Universal Technical Institute after high school, and that was for automotive diesel program. So I went through that, and then they had an extended program on there that was working at Audi dealership. So we had 9 weeks of training, I think it was, for strictly on Audis, and then you pretty much signed a contract with someone to work for them for a year, and they paid off your schooling for that. So I worked up the Seattle Audi dealership for about a year and a half, and then came down to Portland, and I worked at that one. That was pretty close to 10 or 11 years, I think I was there. Till I just kind of got fed up with the automotive business and said I'm done with it. The flat rate and everything started to not work out so well, and so moved out on doing that. But yeah, definitely get up there, go see my brother. We used to go camping. A few years ago, we stopped doing it. Mom got sick and different things like that happened. But we used to go down to Lake Shasta. So never went through the redwoods myself, but being, Northern California area, definitely out there at that lake, and been there pretty much every year for, I think it was probably a good 18 years straight.
Oh, that's like I said, you're surrounded. I mean, then you got the Sierras, just a little bit east of you there. Just a great area, that whole area up there. So yeah, so anybody that's in that area, you can go and visit Jeff. He's got the food. So we'll have to definitely make sure if we're headed out that way, you're going to get a call from me and say, okay, dinner is at what time? Um, but
Yeah, if you head east out of here, also go over the Cascade Mountain Range, then
or
you
the
get to the high.
Cascades are right there by you. Sorry, I've said the
Yeah,
Sierras, but that's a little bit
close enough.
way over. Yeah.
But yeah, you get the high desert over there, and you get Bend and little small town sisters, and there's some ghost towns over there, and that's
Oh,
a really
really?
cool area. Yeah, yeah.
That I have never been through a ghost town. Tell me what that's like.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, mainly just tourist people around, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. Just
Uh,
not like you'd see. They have this place. I think it's called Joseph or whatever. That's more Eastern Oregon, and it's way up. And that's another one that I haven't gone and checked out. But my dad's seen it before. He used to go elk hunting up in that area and talk about it.
yeah, I would love to see a full-on ghost town. I mean, the closest thing that I think that was fortunate enough to go to Havana, Cuba, a few years ago, and when we got there, I mean, it was immediately like you jumped in a time warp because I know everybody's seen the pictures of the classic cars and basically technology, everything. I mean, that place is still stuck in 1955. And it's just really remarkable. And I love history and all that, but to see some of those old mining, because I've seen pictures where even like some of the mining equipment and all that are still up and around those areas, but it's just been untouched for 100 years because it was all just abandoned for whatever reason. I would love to see that. Very cool. But you got those up by you, huh? So now you've got the barbecue, you've got those. All right, I know where we're going to go on vacation.
Yeah, I got the ocean. It's about an hour away from me
Yeah,
to the west. So
forgot about that. Yeah.
then Mount Hood. We got skiing, Mount Bachelor, skiing, snowboarding, whatever you want to do. 4-wheel drive trails. I mean, it's actually one of the best places
I
to
think
live for pretty much variety.
Trey Bloom might be calling you. I think he was a snowboarder, liked to doing all that skiing and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, he has Montana too, right?
yeah, he's over in
Montana?
Montana. So
Yeah.
yeah, you two guys need to hook up there and probably have some fun. But Jeff, I want to thank you for stopping in here and giving us a little bit of your time, and it was really cool to get to even know you even better than even I knew you, before we did this. So thank you so much for popping on. But we've got a couple of things of business left here. We're going to do that green white checker that I like doing, and most people, some will groan, some will find it interesting. But well, I'll just put on a couple things, and you just tell me first thing that comes to your mind. Deal?
Okay.
All right. Number one, Joe Montana or Steve Young?
Go Montana.
Really?
Yeah, that's always a friend, or not friend, but always a fan of Montana. My
Big.
parents bought me the little plastic helmet and the shoulder pads and had the Montana jersey. And then my brother is a big John Elway fan. So we'd go out in the yard, and he's 4 years older than me. So I got chucked into the bushes a few times, out there. But yeah, we would beat on each other and have a good time doing that. But yeah, definitely Montana.
Yeah, Jeff's a big 49ers fan, so I have to ask him that one. That's probably the biggest thing in 49ers lore that people like to debate, or at least one of them anyway. How about this? You can only pick one that you can only race for the next year. Do you do dirt, asphalt, or endurance racing? Which one of the three do you pick?
I'd say asphalt,
Asphalt?
probably.
Why?
Yeah, endurance. I would pick endurance, but the time constraints and everything would be tough. It's a lot easier to run 45 minutes or an
Well,
hour, or
how
even an
about
hour
just
and a half.
take the time
But
constraints out of it? To just if you have nothing else, you're retired and you've got go to hell money, you don't have to worry about anything. Which one of the three?
I'd say endurance then, because it's nice to be able to watch your other teammates race and see how they're doing and cheer each other on, and get those long races and keep the car together. It's quite fun to finish at the end with everybody, and be up high or higher up. We've had that
Gotcha.
4th place finish at one time, not too bad.
Yep.
Not stuck her in first yet, but we've had a great time. So I'd
Yeah.
probably say endurance.
Well, we start with the bar pretty low. Hey, let's just try to finish. The rest is all usually pretty good. All right, last one for you. St. Louis barbecue or anybody else's barbecue? And there's only one right answer here, so.
Well, just for you, John, I'm gonna have to say St. Louis then. Yeah. I haven't had.
No, in all honesty.
I do want to go to Texas and try out some Texas barbecue, but that's most of what I base mine off of, especially when I'm using Oakwood, is Texas style. Mainly just salt, pepper, sometimes seasoned salt instead of regular salt, but they don't really do a whole lot more than that. It's more just in the technique.
Bass Pro, I found one, and I'm going to give a shameless plug here, Bass Pro, now that you said seasoning. I don't know if you've got one that you ever pass or go by every now and again, but they have what they call a GPS seasoning that's garlic, pepper, and salt.
Uh-huh.
And it's fantastic. I bought some, I don't know, it was probably about a couple months ago, man. I put them on burgers, I put them on steak, I put it on chicken, I've even put it on fries. So, yeah,
Yeah,
if
I'd
you
have
ever
to
get a
say
chance to
my favorite rub is a brand called Meat Church, and he's got
meat
a really
church.
good Meat Church, so part of the congregation on Facebook. But yeah, so he's got some really good rubs, and he started out tailgating for the Dallas Cowboys, and actually they just signed him on to be their official barbecue guy, I guess, the other day. But
Really?
he's got this rub called Holy Cow, and I'm guessing that it's seasoned salt because it's got a red tinge to it. It's not paprika in it, but it's basically a salt, pepper, garlic blend for the most part. But he's got the
Meat Church.
16 mesh grind pepper, and he's got it all down to a
Oh,
science. And yeah,
right there is a sponsor for BRL. Meat Church. I like that one. But, very cool, man. And you know what? Like I said, it's been a pleasure to sit here and get to know you and everything else. Thank you for playing along here. And all right, and the last thing we talk about here is the upcoming race this week that will be on the Virtual Grip Network, and that'll be the BRL at Oswego Speedway. They'll be on Saturday night. The times will be right here on your screen for you. Please tune in for that. And Jeff, I know you haven't been there and whatnot. Have you ever watched anything from YouTube or watched on Flow any races from there?
I don't believe I have. So yeah, it's going to be all new to me, everything.
It's going to be almost all new to everybody. I think BRL has been there once. I have not raced on the asphalt even myself. I've raced the dirt, got a win on the dirt in the late models. So, but I got a feeling the two are going to be vastly different. But it's going to be a track for you folks that are going to tune in and watch. It's a fast track. You're going to be in the corners. You're going to see the guys in the corner for a long period of time. Probably one of the longer corners that I think that we go to all season. And I do think we'll see two wide racing there. I think that just because of how long the corners are, I think that will provide some two lanes racing. But watch for a lot of passes. I'm going to bet are going to be on the crossovers coming out of the corners. And those that can pick the gas up a little bit earlier in the corner and get that good corner exit are the guys that are going to make time there, and the guys that can figure that out, especially with the late model, and keep those tires under it, because usually when you got your wheel cranked and you're in that throttle, you're eating up those right side tires. So I think it's going to be a challenge for the drivers, and I really can't wait to get there and see what that whole thing is going to be like and all about. But man, near the new track, it's always exciting when we get to go somewhere pretty well new. But Jeff, again, I want to thank you again for coming in here on a Sunday afternoon, or I guess Tuesday morning when it releases. But everybody knows we pre-record this. But thank you for stopping by this week, and we really look forward to seeing what you can do on the track. Maybe get that second win here before the season's out, huh?
Well, that'd be great. Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on, inviting me. It's been a fun time.
All right, awesome. Well, once again, I want to thank you. My name is John Hine, and I'm here with Ryan Seneker, who is all things VGN producer, our director. All the broadcasts that you see, Ryan is the one that makes all that stuff happen. So thank you guys for tuning in. And remember to give us a like and hit the notification bell so you can catch all our broadcasts. And if you are a potential sponsor, would like to get some exposure, and or you are a league owner and you're looking for a broadcaster, please get a hold of us at thevirtualgrip.net. Once again, thank you for coming in, and keep it between the walls.